move towards this final stage of the game, the CNNW is up first. Now, they have a 3G heavy train they can run between this and this. They have $100 they could drop a dot here. I'm not sure they want to. I'm not sure they don't. That train gets to hit here for 140 and run over here. But here's the problem. Once that diesel comes out, and it's pretty much guaranteed to come out, there's a new company that doesn't have a train that has the cash for it, for example. The 5G is almost assured to us, I think. No, actually, no, the CNI is going to grab it. Yeah. So we're going to be running a 5 train, a diesel, and who knows what else, but probably at best another diesel. I don't see us getting another heavy train. So I think putting the dot here would be a mistake. I don't know what we're going to end up with. This space may be valuable to dot because that'll raise it from a 50 to 100 space. I can only hit it once, but there's no better location. I'm not going to be able to hit these coal spaces after this next time. So that looks appealing to me, and that would run at 1, 2, 3. And now comes breakout question. This track's already used right now, which means current breakout going up there would be useful. That probably makes more money than anything I can do to loop around through these connections. Except if I could hook this right up, which would be pretty big money too. The problem with placing this dot is I don't know what my final train is. It might just be that 5. No matter what it is, if I'm only running one train, which is quite possible, this dot may not be my best choice. And that dot may be the difference, that $100. Yeah, I'm gonna get like 50 of it back because of all these shares here. But that $100 may be the difference between being able to afford a train at some point. So I think I'm not even going to place that because my eventual train can run off here for $140. So I think I'm going to be running 100, 150, 180. I'm going to swing down there for 220 off the 5 train. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which, boy, that freight train's potent. Which is going to get me 48 a share, which is pretty good. B&O has a 61 run. The little train down here isn't doing much, but up here they're running their big train, which is cutting around and up to Philadelphia. Again, the reason they didn't upgrade this is because this doesn't really help them, and that's what confused me with the Maryland was the B&O didn't care to upgrade this because they have this spot. Unless they're running a 2 train, they can't hit both of them, and therefore it only made sense to hit this, which is more valuable. No real bonus for the freight trains and the ports type situation there. But anyway, huge amount of money. That's enough money. If I swallow that, I mean, it's a lot of money. I'm holding 60% of the company though. No, 50% of the company. So I would get $300. That's also a lot of money. However, I think there's a fair amount of game left. I think I've got no chance unless I do this. I am going to swallow that money in order to buy another train. I don't know what I do with the rest of the cash. I wish I could half pay out or something. But yeah, otherwise I'm not going to be able to buy a diesel. And the one swallow I did that put all this cash on there is going to be ineffectual. One thing. That other swallow is worth a lot. That other swallow is worth 110, 140, 170, 220, 250. Screw up here. I get 390 for it. I thought it was worth 400. 400 would be perfect. 390 is not. 390 doesn't cut it by 10 bucks. What did I do differently? 110, 140. Ah, the 10 bucks here. Yeah, so I get 400 bucks from this run. So even if I lose the 3G, my swallow will still give me enough to buy the diesel. So I'm gonna actually pay out this time, which should be oodles of cash. Railway grabs that dot. C&O can't get everything, can it? They don't want it. The Southern's got a G train. The C&O does not. Starts building up in this direction and makes 34 a share off its run. It's, again, the baby brother of the Norfolk and Western going into Newport News instead. But, I don't know. That's about it. And that puts us on to the big question. How to manage this. There's still some money here. Gotta see, gotta think, right? And the C&O's new start is to actually buy the heavy train. I wasn't sure I wanted to buy the freight train or not. The bonus for the freight train, the $100 location here. The diesel, I could have bought one, but I don't want that. I want the cheap train here because I think I can get an extra diesel. I've got about 700 bucks here, but I also have a lot of shares in these two companies. There are 2 more operating rounds. I think without a swallow I can do it, but I'm pretty sure I can do it with a swallow. It's going to require train juggling though, so that's a second swallow essentially. But getting that extra train seems of high importance to me. PO's next, and they've got kind of a painful choice here. They bought the diesel. That wasn't too hard. But what they did was whether or not to buy a dot. They bought the Washington dot. There's kind of, what's painful about this is first of all, the Norfolk and Western, we've already made a decision on them. They had nowhere, they didn't want to get into the freight train business. The RFP is in the freight train business, unfortunately, but they're not going there with a diesel. So, and by the way, the first diesel means nobody's getting the extra income from that. They picked up a dot in Washington. I feel like it's kind of necessary to them. They'll be able to run their diesel between these 3 cities. They could they will hit one more city. I'm not sure which one. This one looks appealing. This one is possible. And then that all gets doubled. And we definitely want to be in Washington. That might be our breakout this way if things go badly or whatever. The hard part wasn't where to put the dot. It was, can I afford $100? Because this guy's sitting on 500 and something, and was sitting on nearly 300. Between that, that's almost enough for a diesel. I got enough money, a second diesel. I got enough money to juggle things a little bit. Boy, does the Norfolk and Western hate the fact that it doesn't have a freight train there, though. So, you know, I'm going to be making money in these next 2 operating rounds where I don't have to do a swallow, but I should be able to buy a second diesel and try to get that over on the Norfolk and Western somehow. Yeah, that thing may just accrue the money, and I'll just leave the money, leave the Richmond, the RFP alone. The Western Maryland runs for only 36 a share, but we finally hooked up the Baltimore port. It matters to us, even if it doesn't matter to anyone else. And it, yeah, the fact that the B&O has their dot starting there and took this dot, it meant only one person could get in there and do anything useful. Even if Washington gets closed out to us, we could get shut down, but you know what? This is our only company. We're going to spend the $100 and also drop a Washington dot down. We want some presence here. We're not going to get any bigger on train. This is just too important to us. It would suck if we lose this. We'd have to, I don't know what we'd have to do. It starts getting really ugly because this track was built in a way that we can't slip in. So maybe Washington is actually not good for us, but we could shoot up this way. The bad thing is if this gets dotted. I'm hoping it doesn't. That's about the best I can say, because there's no way into this without going through this. I could conceivably work my way through that way, I guess, but that's a lot of effort, and I don't see that happening. So we just got highest hopes. Nobody's really after us, I don't think. We're not doing that great. We're doing okay, though. We're doing better than the B&O owner. And that puts us on the second operating round. Lots and lots of money going into the company treasuries, which company treasury money is more likely to go into here for real. So like buying stocks pay themselves off pretty quickly at this point in the game. There's not a lot of stock value, and the runs are pretty huge already. I'm really sure how to balance my trains at the end of the game. But the Norfolk and Western paid out. It didn't get it. It's going to be 29 a share. I paid $100 to drop the dot here. That allows my 5 train to run up through here. This is doubled at 100 because I have the dot there. That's great. Okay. I could get 2 trains. If I move all this money over onto the RF&P in exchange for this, let's keep it up. Always wise to keep a buck, right? The RF&P doesn't quite have enough money to buy the diesel. It's got $300, $600, $700. Call it around 775 almost. Right. 770, whatever. 771. Well, but I got another 25, 30 bucks, whatever. So I can buy the diesel out of pocket. I'll let it fall back a space. I still have to pay out the 29. I paid it into there, but nowhere else. And now I'm going to have 2 trains running on the Norfolk and Western. Is the diesel better on the Norfolk and Western, or I'm sorry. Oh, fuck, this is a diesel. Oh. Okay, none of this matters. I was going to say, is the diesel better on the Norfolk and Western? But this is going to go diesel no matter what. The question is the 2 trains better on the Norfolk and Western? I have more shares of the Richmond, but it's fine. This gets me moved more quickly, and I would rather see that. And I think the Norfolk and Western has better track built. The one thing I'm not going to get that I thought I was going to get, I just woke up, I took a nap, right? I thought I was going to be able to run a freight train between here and here. The freight trains don't matter that they have the dots anymore over in the coal mining country, because they're not going to, the diesels are out, they're not going to get that bonus any longer. But they do matter when they hit ports. But I don't have one that can hit a port. So let's not worry about it. I don't know where my trains are going to run in the long run. Right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sounds appealing, but it's hard to really judge. You know, I would really like to get the 4 train on the diesel here, to tell you the truth. So this would go 1, 2, I don't know from there. I'd like to hit Richmond with both trains and get the doubling on that, and that would get me the 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe I just run the diesel out here. It doubles everything, but doubling 100 is really, really awesome, which is one reason. It doubles whatever full effects are in play. I may not be making the kind of money they thought they were going to. Lots of dots got thrown down all over the place. I could run up out of here, I guess, into this crap. Washington doesn't upgrade. I don't have more dots. I could come out of here, but right now that doesn't get me very far. But I don't see any B&O track that'll get me anywhere too interesting. So I'm having a hard time finding a 5G run. I think the best I can do is link that up. It only ended up in a 350 run, not with swallowing. I don't have the track I used to have. I don't have access through here. I didn't realize how easily clogged that could be. And that means I don't buy the diesel at this point. All right, on to the Southern. We've got almost enough money sitting on there. We got a pile of cash on or a pile of shares on both companies. We're going to be getting an extra train. No matter what with this company, or with this pair of companies, the two G trains, that's going to be kind of a pain. They're going to both end up in the same place. I could conceivably shift one of them over. I don't have any tokens over here. Oh, but $1, just in case things go. Of course, that means he's not going to get to run. Southern paid out at like 37 a share. All these shares in there allow all kind of great options available for people to play around with the money. Now there's enough for a diesel, and we can start working towards the dots there. Again, unfortunately, or whatever. Hey, we got a dot down here. That might be the solution. Unfortunately, whatever. We have the two G trains on the Southern, which is they're going to have trouble using them. They've got one set up just right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. The other one is more problematic. I mean, I can run it 1, 2, 3. I don't know. You know, I guess I could come out here 1, 2, 3. That's it. I probably am better off with it over on the C&O. That way both companies can kind of make a run down here that's heavy and valuable. But do I want to transfer the train and lose its run again? I don't know. The RFP was sitting there with a pile of cash, no train on it. I was very close. I had to pay out of pocket. If I pay $100 from the company before, that's $100 more bucks for myself. I can get this dot with this track lay and get the Richmond dot. That's probably the best run I can do. Maybe the best run in the game. 1, 2, 3, 4, doubled. Washington will be in there. That's pretty sweet. Somebody had to take Richmond. B&O didn't have the dot, so the upgrade might have helped them for a turn. It really might have. They probably should have done it, but I don't know, I'm stupid and slow and tired, and mistakes happen. Big piles of money showing up on people's hands though. This may not last very long, the way they're eating it up. Also crashed, got itself a train. I could buy one of these too. So I'm currently going to be running 1, 2, 3, 4 diesel, same run the RFP has for that, I think. Probably. I could run, this thing's running 1, 2, no, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sort of be my optimal run for the, for the Southern. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't really have another space on the Southern. I have less shares of the Southern. I'm going to spend another $1 and I'm going to buy that 5G, I think, for the C&O, if I can, if I have a good run for it. So I bought a dot. C&O is the only company with dots left. So it can do a lot of damage theoretically, like I could throw a dot here, but the Southern wouldn't like that. I have to worry if the Virginia comes out. But otherwise, you know, as it stood, this was the only dot I needed. If I have another $100, I may block that off and just see if I can screw the B&O over further. Yeah, I have a share, but who cares? I actually still didn't need this. I'll keep it in hand. It's making me $15 a turn. I can always sell it to a corporation as the game ends for $90. It was not necessary at all. It could have funded a dot, yeah, but I'm going to have cash coming in very shortly. So this leaves my southern with a root. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. And it leaves the C&O with a 5 run that I want to hit a freight location from. I don't know what else I want to hit with it, but if I'm running this run, 1, 2, 3, 4, what's my 5 going to look like? It could look like a lot of things. Like it could come out of here, 1, 2, 3. I mean, I could clearly use it if I set up the track properly. Could the southern use a 5 train? That's the question. Coming out of here, 1, 2, 3. No, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is really it. I could add another train to that conceivably. 1, 2, 3. This doesn't help. What did I say? 1. I can't count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, let me get the 5. Let me leave the 5 on the southern. I think it's going to be easier for the southern to use the 5 than it is for the C&O. The C&O looks like it's going to have some trouble on it. And that gets me to the last company in the line, the Western Maryland, who is just doing whatever the hell they're doing. The thing only makes 36 a share, which isn't bad at all, but it's actually running, let's see. I built this track because I'll be eventually able to do this, but right now it's just running, coming through here. It's got the dots through there. It's just missing that one dot, which could be terrible if it happens. It's bad. There's no easy way out because this track was laid in a bad way. So, you know, I'll end up hitting greens up here instead, and that's not good. But there's no way around. There's no way around. And there are a lot of problems. The terrain's annoying in certain ways. You'll find your way where you want to get, but you're not going to get there as well as you want to get. It turns everyone over. As we hit here, we can see some people are entering into the, let's start getting some reasonable stock value territory here. It's going up by a little bit more, just like these two-dimensional tracks generally tend to. If you get into the right area, you start making boodles off the stock value. This is a tougher game to make money off the stock value, though, because you don't make early stock value money off your like $3 runs or whatever that you can set up. So yeah, you gotta press your trains a little harder than you might otherwise. And I guess I'll put the die over here. I'm finding myself with a hard problem with the Norfolk and Western. It's got 2 trains on it, a 5 and a 4D. I'm going to start recording the values so that people know what's worth buying. It won't always be obvious, and this is something I sometimes neglect to do, but especially when I'm not used to the game. And this one has some secrets, where some companies, just due to their geographical position and their dot placement and everything, can do really, really well comparatively. Anyway, I've got basically two endpoints that are good. This one only runs for 70, which isn't terrific, but I got a dot expended there, so it kind of feels like I should be using that. It might not be the case. Another one comes from here, and what I'm seeing is both go through this choke point, and that's a problem. To get to the $60 city that I really like to get to, well, I can't come up with an easy way. Conceivably, I'm not sure if the track absolutely fits this, but it does actually, because it's the angle track that can go in so many directions. I could get from here up to here, heading this way, and then maybe, shit, yeah, fuck me. Here's the part that doesn't work. Not banging the counters. That doesn't work very well either. But then I can't get back into this. There is no track that supports that I'm aware of. Well, no, there is. There's the chicken foot. Huh. Okay, so that would be my optimal. Let me show you why. I could run a train from here. 1, 2, 3. These don't give me anything anymore. But then say 4 there. Now, is that where I really want my diesel to run? Okay, I don't know, but probably. Because the other train comes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which doesn't look that much better. A 6 would have been good here. But the 4D is a 5 as well, right? No, the 4D is the 4D. Okay. I get confused. That would probably be the best route I can do. But right now, I don't have that. Right now, I've got 2 trains that would run into here in that case. And this one's obviously the more important to come from. So then I'd be coming out of here 1, 2, 3, and then where branching into this lets me get 4 to there, which isn't bad. And then out of here 1, 2, 3, 4. Shit. Okay, let's try again. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 4. Could come back up around for 5, and then the other one would come 1, 2, 3, 4 up to there, which doesn't look bad at all. So I think that's what we'll do. It means we don't get this doubled and doubled again, which is better. And that's kind of the problem. Now you've got, in addition to very permissive track, because there's no sloping and curves to this track. You just get to a junction and you choose a direction. In addition to that, I've got different kinds of trains that run in it. And in particular, one of them doubles everything it runs through. Well, that's pretty damn awesome. So figuring out which is your optimal route becomes a bit more of a nightmare than I like. I like the train options. I don't like what they imply for the end game. They're not so bad, and this is always the case. They're never so bad in the early game. Usually in the 18XXs, I'm more used to with the curved track that you can't back out. You can't do things like this. Oh, I could go this way or this way. Usually the track offers some broad sweeps, but it's not going to offer you this kind of option directly. So anyway, I do want to replace this piece of track, and I don't know, I was saying something and I got confused, as is often the case. But yeah, usually with those broad track placements, the end game actually in like an 1830 game, you don't usually have a lot of options, even if you have your 2 trains. it's usually pretty easy to figure it out. And there also aren't a lot of valuable locations. This game has a lot of potentially valuable locations. And it all kind of depends on your trains and everything. That makes for all kind of interesting decisions early, through the early game, the mid game. I didn't feel any real problem there. Here in the end game though, this really permissive track, it blooms things to a point that on the big map games is hellish. So what I found with that kind of track, the sharp angle track, whatever you want to call it, that it increases the amount of options you have for each train significantly. This is a small map, so that doesn't seem too bad, and there are a lot of dots on that small map. But the complexity of, is that route doubled? So it means I have to figure out a couple different routes and see which one makes the most sense. So at least for now, it makes the most sense to run the 4 train out of here, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. And the 5 train coming out of here, 1, let's see if I can remember it. I know, 1, 2, I don't get the port here, 3, 4, 5. And that gets me to 74, which is pretty damn good. The attempt by the Southern and the C&O to slip into here. Jeez, man. Actually, I was mistaken. I shouldn't do this. I want this track. I was denying it, but if I can build this, I want it. I'm not sure it can be built, though. That's the problem. This was the curve. Yeah, I want this track. I make a little bit more money off this. I forgot. That token is meaningless now, so I don't particularly need to support that. I mean, I can run out of it, but which means the Mary is running down here. Not even sure I have to go through that city, but I need this track for this to work. So this is what I'll set up for now. Somebody else can hook this up. Looks like somebody's trying to. So that runs out of the port down here. There's nobody with a token to fill that. Over to here, that's the defect in my run, and then down through here. So instead of these two, I get these two, and I get another $10 a share. And I can't get down here because there's no upgrade to brown for the mining villages. The C&O had kind of an exciting turn, actually. Paid out, of course. It ran for 72. I had to hook this up. I mean, not all that exciting. I got tokens. I can't do anything valuable with them. I could block this off just in case that other company, well, in case anybody's using it. That might be important for the B&O, but right now, my money means too much to me. In fact, I bought the Ironworks, give myself a certificate extra. With all this cash, buying certificates is better. I did give myself the $90, which are actually $80. Just worked out better. Yeah. But I think I've got another train in the coming here. I've got $500. This is worth 200. That gets me to 700. If I can make $100, I'm assuming the C&O is going to sell out. But the Southern is a 41. That's pretty good. But I don't think there's that much certificate limit left for people to be buying that. The only thing that's iffy is these B&Os. Those are probably going to get dumped all over the place. That throws us into the next stock round. And put that there. And get this on the road there. And that's why I did the charting the values, because this really is the end game. And now, in comparison of the stock value you're going to be making and the amount that the runs are, and we got two biggies, the Norfolk and Western, and the Chesapeake and Ohio. Well, there's 50% of each of them in the stock pool. Those are going to get grabbed up, especially the NWs. Everybody's got tons of money. They're the best shares in the game by far. They make the most money, and they also, of course, they've got a problem too, or a risk. Not that you're going to get it dumped on you, but that there might be a swallow in there you're not counting on, or a reduction in trains you're not counting on. because there's a fair amount of money between the RF&P and the NW. Two more diesel, or of these 4Ds, could change how fast this game's going to go. So we've got, say, somewhere around $3,000 is disappearing. Now, there's no $3,000 in this bank. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 13. This is where certificate limits make it longer by making it bigger. 14, 15, 16, 17. Let's call it $2,000 in the bank about. There's $3,000 going to be withdrawn each operating round. So even if those two 4Ds go, I think this is the last set of operating rounds coming up, which is something to keep in mind. If you have to swallow to bonus up, you know, how quickly can you do it? How many shares of your company are out there? And that's a big question. And you can see the Southern and the RF&P. These are the two that are currently the feeders, the rails that can actually buy the train. And they're in the same hands as the C&O and the NW. They're the third and fourth place shares in the game, which means, you know, these Mary and B&Os, well, clearly the B&Os, they're a little less valuable. There's a big jump. Basically, each train is worth, you know, high 30s, early 40s. And it just seems like that's it. There doesn't seem like there's much differentiation. Again, it's because of the flexibility of this kind of track. I don't know if that's good or bad. I'll tell you one thing it means. It means that you're not going to win the game off your track plays usually, or your dots, which seems a little weird. It seemed like the dots would be really important in this with these off-map locations surveying. Doesn't seem like it really matters. It seems like what you win the game off of is being able to manage your trains properly. Now that's usually the most important facet in an 18XX. Everything else kind of pales next to that. But it also means other facets like early and mid-game stuff are going to be perhaps more important than they would otherwise. And the trains are more important, like I said, than what track you're laying for the long term, what your plans are. Knowing in advance what trains you're going to get, which is something I'm incapable of, but maybe some people are capable of setting up their track so it's either flexible enough or so that they have it exactly set up. They know I'm going to have a 5 and a 6. How you can know that, I don't know. I'm going to get the 2-5 bonus. How are you going to know that? I have no idea. But, you know, or maybe you just have to rely on the luck of the chaos. We're starting over here. Everybody's got piles and piles of money. I'm shocked at how much cash the B&O owner has. He seems to be ahead of this guy, but this guy had a rail that didn't start, or that he started late, like on this last turn. These guys have more though, so I guess that's what happened. Is this guy's picking up the C&O was really he took a slice and it brought him down to below the level that this guy has, even though he's got many more certificates. Kind of weird. Wow. I'm wondering if anything was sold out last time. The B&O was sold out last time, and I don't know if it went up. I may have cheated it, and that may have cheated in a space to the right, which would be a pretty big deal if that's the case. I don't think that I did. So that means it moved from here, which is where I'm pretty sure it was, to here. And instead it should have been here. And it should be under the NW instead. Is everything else got shares? The Mary also sold out. I don't know. And that I'm less sure of where it was. It might have been here, or it might have been here. In either case, if it moved up, it would be there. If it moved up, it would be there. I'm going to shift it to there. I'm just pretty sure that I didn't do the sellouts last time. It wasn't easy to see, and let's correct that. The stock round, it was kind of a raucous one. Everybody was buying up the good stuff, and then this guy realized, you know, I should have the Virginia. He threw his Western Marylands away because there were better things to buy, and he was at share limit. But he threw his one away or something, I don't remember, and some Southerns, and decided to start the Virginia with it because, hey, I got enough money to get a rail on that. That's an extra certificate. I'm at limit 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and was able to make limit no matter what. He wasn't able to get many C&Os, which was one of his gripes. He's like the one person who wanted it the most, a cheap railway that can bring a lot of money. He should have been buying that up rather than the Norfolk and Westerns. But it worked out okay in terms of, you know, the Norfolk and Westerns make more, but the cash might have meant a little bit more to him. You can see he's tapped out over here as well. This guy, he could not keep his shares from being eaten up. Now the Southerns got re-released. This guy sold a couple of Southerns. Those ended up excess in those hands. Now, had I not bought it, this guy would have bought it. The interesting thing is this guy wanted to leave RF&Ps in the bank pool, so he bought a Virginia. Well, that released him from having to buy as many Virginias, so he ended up buying an extra RF&P out of it. That didn't really help, and he ended up with something that's less valuable. I never do that kind of stuff. It's just dumb. But it looks like he's got such a lead, it's not going to matter. This guy is coming in second here. This is really just let's shake things up, see if another train can make the game longer, prolong my misery. For him, I'm having a hoot here, but you know. But this poor guy ended up in a problem. He was kind of expecting to be able to buy a train. He's not far from it. He's got $300, $500. Make it $700 because he can get $200 off the price of a train. He's $100 short. One share of either of his companies, but the Southern was the number 3 company out there, basically. What's not out there, this is kind of amusing. Oh, no. Yeah, well, the RF&P was the second best, was the third best producer cash-wise. But its low stock value kept it in there ahead of some of the other companies that make more or make less, like the B&O, that have a better stock position, so they're going to make more per share as a whole. They're just not going to make it in cash. So we're going to see those 2 trains come out, though, because the RF&P is going to be producing money, but maybe not all that quickly. All those shares bought, that threw extra money into the bank. It's still not enough, but maybe it's enough if somehow a third train gets bought out of here, which may mean a swallow. And I think that's very likely because, as I said, he wants to shake things up. He thinks he's in last place. He might be able to fix that if he's one of the people with a third train, with 3 trains between 2 companies. But here we're looking at 4 trains on 2 companies. Here we're looking at 2 or 3 trains between 2 companies. He's the only one. Now, extra certificate might make a difference, you know, getting that extra presidency. But I don't see how it can because he was so far behind before. It's not like he's got an advantage on anyone. It's just like he's trying to pull him closer into a tighter 4th place. At least he didn't come in last. That's the guy who went bankrupt. This time, let's remember to move things up. Not the Virginia. C&O definitely. And not these 2. And this still produces revenue. Yippee-ki-yay. As this goes here. I'm actually started on that. That can't be here. That's over here. If it matters, there might be some shifting of stocks if there is another stock round. But that's one thing I like 1880 has kind of I think it has an end game where you don't get to play with the stocks at the end. So you got to make your best guess. You're not going to just be able to, realign your portfolio to match what people have set up for. So if you didn't guess right towards the end of the game, you just lose out on your stock round, and there's a bunch of operating rounds, which can all be kind of spreadsheeted pretty easily, because I think there's almost no track lays or anything like that either. And another player playing for the long game here. Southern bought a 4D from the CNO. That means the CNO is going to swallow. It's got a pile of money. It's got some dots though, and it can do some damage with those dots. So maybe it'll do something interesting there. Try to slice up other people's roots. And especially with the Virginia in play, that might be particularly interesting. In particular, I can cut this and this. So those are interesting. I can't play one yet. I gotta wait until the CNO's turn. The Virginia gets to go before that. So if it's got an important dot like this one, it'll probably play it first. Problem with that one? Does the B&O need it? Yeah, the B&O actually doesn't need it, but it might if it has a second rail. It's hard to tell. Okay, first operating down, and I'm not sure he's getting the train. Norfolk and Western isn't paying anything into the treasury. This thing's only making 17 a round now with some of the cuts that have happened, which comes out to like a 34 because of the diesel. So it's making 34 a round, which is what we have down here. You can see the prices are kind of going down. That means we're draining less money, but it also means some of the people are having trouble getting the cash in hand. So like here, he's not quite there yet. He's going to have to run the Virginian to get there. He did his dirty deed. But other than that, nobody looks really poised, and they may all run out without getting that extra train. He'll get it if he doesn't have to swallow. He's not going to swallow. This guy chose to swallow. Perhaps a bad move. This guy is going to try to gain it, but probably not through a swallow, which means how much does the Virginia make? He's not too far. He's at 550, which this diesel's fairly cheap, so 250 bucks. If he could get a 50 run, it would work. But as it is, this is going to be something he probably buys on the third round. It may not even come into play. The same kind of situation there. He's got a fair amount of money. He's got 600 bucks, but he's only got 2 shares sitting in there. Oh, Virginia's only got 4? Yeah, that's right. Now, the floating of the Virginia may have been very unwise. The B&O ended up getting itself really boxed into a corner. I ran, I don't know what, I think down here, coming out of here, whipping around, through here and up there. One pip on my train short. Maybe I ran here. I could connect things up if I can get down into here, because then I could swing down this way and back around. But right now I'm sliced up, not because of just the Virginia. That didn't really do anything, but the fact that the Virginia slapped in there, the CNO had more tokens, it was able to cut a really important space for me. The Virginia space actually wasn't important to me at all, but I don't know if it had a collateral effect. I think it was the swallow that the CNO had to make. That was the real reason that we have a dot there. But it kind of has loosened things up in a way that wasn't expected. I don't think it was the Virginia's fault, though. I think I at least got to use this. That's a bonus. I hope I counted it. But it's run down 10 points to a 31. And we see these dropped as well last time, but that was because of shifting trains. But we're beginning to see some real pain in terms of what the companies are pulling in. I have options here. Instead of, I mean, a Swallow is just as good. I could just, well, I have to buy a train is the problem. I could just buy this train, for example, and take that $250 hit. I don't think that makes sense, but there may be a point where, you know, it's like a $50 hit or something, and it's better than waiting longer, because I have to make sure that I am ready before the bank breaks. And the bank may actually break too early. I may not have the option. I may need to float it, but you know, it's not worth taking a $250 hit. That's the problem. I'm in enough trouble already. I'm in last place already. How much worse do I need to dig this hole? Runs are kind of becoming nightmares. I got to a 78 on the Southern, but basically I'm running this, and then let's see what the hell it is. Coming up here, through here, around here, back through here. Remember the other train went through there. Here. And then down here. So I'm zooming through all this crap. I'm a point short, just like what somebody else was running their 5. I think the B&O was running their 5 as a 4. I'm basically running that as a 4, but I think if I hook this up, I fix that problem. So this was track I thought about last a turn or two ago, and I was just like, I'm not going to need that. No, with the dots, now I do. The Maryville gets itself down to a 37 run, which with payout, yeah, there's lots of money here. I mean, very quickly, we're going to get to that next train, but there's like one more company that can run before that bank breaks, and the RFNP is probably going to break it. However, it's just short. And here's the problem. It's not worth trying to get that extra train now. It really isn't. The bank's going to break. It's not worth doing anything that really significantly hurts. Certainly nothing that causes me not to go forward on stock value. And that makes that guy look really stupid. He could have held on to stuff that would produce good money, and instead he was looking for that extra train. So from turn 1, he was mismanaging terribly. He set up that track in such a way that he couldn't possibly, you know, he set up track that he couldn't use basically very quickly, and just horrible stuff. Now, to be fair, that's a gotcha that I'm not used to in an 18XX, where like you have one of, you know, you have the ultimate starting company, the one that you cannot play the game without it starting. Is there any, you know, not all games even have that. 1830 comes close, but it doesn't quite come to this. You can't start the game without the B&O. That company is faced with its home track lay, which can totally screw the whole game up. It's going to be set at the highest par value, almost assuredly, $100. It's going to be the first company to get there. So you have no time to think about or look at the game on your first play. You're faced with, yeah, that looks good. Yeah, let's go straight down because I want that dot. I'll make good money right from the bat. You know, I'll get my double money. Well, straight down's not the right option. And it wasn't clear to me that I would never get into Annapolis, that there were no green upgrades that would get me in there. I seem to bank more depleted than this, but not often, and not since I played with poker chips. Usually I just call it, but here there's all this juggling of trains going on in it. You know, it's pretty obvious as I'm throwing these out. It's time for the 500s. The RFNP paid out at 37. We're heading over to the Virginia. As long as it makes a run, that money has to come out of there. You know, there's like not $100 in here, I don't think. I don't know. This is probably about $50 at most. And it's over there, you know. Virginia continues the token violence. Why not? Cutting this, which I know the Southern needs. Well, I had to sell my Southern shares, so, you know, that's great. Does the B&O need it? I don't think so. I don't think it goes down there at all. But who knows? The B&O ideally wants stuff over here. Now, I think the B&O wants to make it through here. And the Virginia, which is up here, could actually hook that up. So I didn't lay a track for them. I'm gonna try to help the B&O a little there. C&O doesn't play a dot. It could. It really doesn't want to. Cuts here, cuts the southern. Anywhere else? Well, who knows? The only thing with a dot left is the Virginia, and I'm terrified of cutting my own railroad. I could probably afford to throw a C&O somewhere, up in the north somewhere. Yeah, but the Virginia's not going to cut off the B&O stuff here, so it's just not worth it. I'll keep the money, see what happens, which is nothing, basically. It did make it up to a 71 run, though, which is almost as good as its high point, which is pretty impressive given the amount of dottage that's here. It's, you know, the flexible track, man. It allows you to do so much. That gets us to the third operating round. We're almost done, basically. Let's see. I got the money a little bit more sane at this point, and the bank looks a little bit more natural, but yeah. It's just interesting for me with the chips to see what's going on with that. This is an important point. If for any reason the guys I game with at the store see this, this is how you organize the money. Okay, in order to fit the best divisions that I have. First of all, the hundreds. I've convinced them the greens should be 25s, the blues should be hundreds. Sometimes they use otherwise. I don't remember what they do, but and the reds fives. Actually, the greens and reds are about equal, so you can swap them either way. But the reason the blues have to be the hundreds is you have more of them. If you have any kind of significant bank, you almost always want a decent number of hundreds. It's a little different maybe in some of the smaller games where maybe it's actually to your advantage to have more small bills. No tens, always multiple of fives where possible, right? Ones, fives, 25s. All right, 125 is goofy and we want to go to 500, so we'll make a special case there. The other thing is in the order, and they all fit, all the greens in here. Yeah. Just, I'm sure none of them are watching. They tend not to watch my playthroughs anymore. They're sick of me already. All right, on to the next operating round, and I really don't know. I'd like to do it tonight, but I don't know if I have enough in me. They're not that complicated now, I would guess. I should just be able to, I don't know. It should be easier right now, given that I'm like in the zone in terms of everything, to just finish this off, but I am feeling a lot of fatigue. The problem with that, of course, is tomorrow's dance night, and I need to take a nap. And I had a nap today, so that should help, right? Final runs weren't too bad. I don't know if I'm a little slower than usual, but in terms of like, just couldn't see anything to do. But honestly, nobody could improve their routes terribly much. B&O got itself up to 36. I don't know how. I don't want to talk about it or think about it. And the Southern, this hurt them, and they ended up slashed down to 62. Remember, they had jumped up to that 78 and thought good things would happen. Now they got closed out of it. Others, pretty much all staying the same. Nothing exciting there. And now all that's left is to count the score. It's pretty damn obvious this guy has won. We'll see what the points come out to, but he's got a slightly larger stack of black tokens than anyone else. Those are 500 apiece, so those are a lot of difference. Those big stacks of blues, well, the obvious increase becomes a little less obvious when you start seeing it just on the blacks. In fact, this guy's got a fairly large stack too. So I think it's going to be fairly close between those three. It's not just cash, though. It's also stock value, and that's where he's a little more interesting. He's got one of the two big companies. The other guy's over here. He's got a small stack, not a lot of certificates that are valuable in general. So I think, fairly obvious that this guy has the lead with those extra stacks. But again, we'll count it because the Southern over here is pretty decent, but he's got a big share, a big holding in the Chesapeake and Ohio, which isn't going to be worth all that much. Likewise over here, he does not. He has the Baltimore and Ohio holdings, but otherwise, and the Northwestern. But his own companies aren't terribly valuable, so his big stack isn't going to be able to beat that out. We'll try to figure out why. I got my ideas, and I'm not sure I'm thrilled with them. I'm a little worried about what they mean. But anyway, I think whoever gets the first priority at the beginning of the game has a very, very good advantage, actually, which may mean you don't want to buy a private, and we'll go into that in a bit. We'll get the values here. No big shock. What is kind of interesting, I knew his stock value was quite high. This guy actually had the highest stock value at 26.19. But, you know, that's really just, he's got a lot of shares of the B&O, managed to get the jump and able to buy the extra NWs early or something like that in the final rounds when he had cash and everybody had cash. And that's really all that represents, is that he was able to buy some big stocks to fill his portfolio out. And, you know, he's got the extra presidential certificate, which he didn't have to pay as much for as he thought, because he bought one for some unknown reason, just to help him out. Over here, this was, you know, not terribly close, a 600-point difference, but again, stock value, right up there. He's actually, you know, $25 ahead in stock value, but it doesn't make up for a couple extra black chips at $500 each. And that's the whole thing. You can just see the cash on hand. This guy's stock portfolio filled out early, and he didn't get good options at the end that would really help. One of the reasons being the B&Os didn't really move. His Norfolk and Westerns, well, he had room for another one. He just didn't get a choice on it, and for a good reason. So let's talk a little bit about strategy situation. I think the B&O starts out in a really powerful position, but it's got 10% shares, which means you're not going to make a lot of money off of it. It may be one of the weakest choices that you can get. Of course, you do get, if you put the bid in and get it at 140, you get 60 extra bucks. That's huge. It went for a lot, though. Yeah, I don't remember what it was, but it went for around 190 or whatever. So nobody got a lot of extra money off of it, and it's not really an optimal starting company. The Norfolk and Western, on the other hand, I feel like this should be the guy who doesn't spend any monies. Out of the people who spend no money, that should be the first choice. It is pretty damn awesome. It starts off, first of all, it's near some good stuff with Richmond, but the biggie is it's near Norfolk, it's near Rocky Mount. Norfolk's really huge. It's got the capacity to do the coal run that'll put money into its pocket, as well as get the bonus double port run from the heavy train that runs there. Not right away. It needs a 3G to really get set up and working. You might be able to kick it off with a 2G if you run around there, but that's going to be tough. And that's going to be putting good money into your pocket and the excess cash into there. That makes the coal really, really powerful. The coal's not the only thing that's useful. Getting an extra city can be useful. If you're making coal runs, though, you're going to end up better. The coal runs tend to be pretty decent money, you know. Hitting a 40 city in the green, well, that's better than any of the greens. Hitting a 20 in the yellow, that's essentially what you'd be hitting anyway. That's not as good as hitting these off maps. And if you can get a token down in some place like Philadelphia, you're hitting an 80 run, you know, off that first city. That's why he did what he did. It's better than the port, but in the long run, I mean, if I had gone in the right direction, if I hadn't totally screwed up with the B&O. Oh yeah, player 4 is not on here because he's got 0. So I think the Norfolk and Western is a little bit super powered in a way. Now, obviously, first time playing, who knows? But that's how I would go into the game at this point, is I would be saying, you know what, I want the Norfolk and Western. If I can't get that, that's fine. What about the privates? These are kind of interesting. So, that, you know, they give you a nice revenue. And that's cool. But they don't have the oomph that they have in 1830 in terms of being able to move a lot of money into your own pocket. And therefore, they're not quite as good, I think, as this first option on the company. The fact that these went for fairly high initial auction prices, that definitely hurt the situation too. So it's basically yeah, you might not get the best choice in companies, but there are decent companies. The Southern's not bad. It's a mini Norfolk and Western, you know. And if you have one of these that's good because you have the Southern, that would be great. Over here, this thing's not a bad company either. It can run the coal run. It doesn't necessarily get a port though, but it might be able to get up here fairly early in the game. And what's that? That's running, if it does that quick, that's running a 3G, which isn't all that late, you know. It's a little later than I like. I really like the idea of, well, see, this runs a 3G as well. I really like the idea of the 2 or 3G. But opportunities for this are more limited. So you could be running a 1G and a 2 right off the bat pretty easily. And then get yourself to that 3G. And similarly over here, you could be running, you have to think about this, because if you don't put the dot here, if you put it down here instead, you get just as much money by running a 2G. But a 2G is not available right away. A 2 is available right away. So this dot is sort of seductive. Because this will be giving you $100. This only gives you $60. So I would actually forego this, leave that for someone else later in the game. And then obviously if you can get the dot there, so that you start pocketing the extra money from your heavy train once you get it. That would be your goal. Other companies are a little bit iffier. Let's take a look at this guy. This guy, assuming the Southern and Norfolk and Western eat up these two ports, he wants the coal train. He has easy access. So does the Chesapeake and Ohio. They have quicker access to the coal trains, just like the Maryland does. That may be a big deal, but what at least we saw in this game was the mid-game to end-game position that Norfolk and Western looks like they've got a pretty good lock on. It's going to put them in a I think a stronger position across the board. I'm not sure. I definitely want to play it some more. This game didn't give me a real absolute feeling for it. Maybe after 2 or 3 more playings, I might change my opinion. You know, it may be that it is fairly balanced because, like I said, getting that early coal run, that could be a huge difference. That's getting you extra money right from the beginning, and when money's kind of tight and it's flowing into your company, so that's kind of cool. Anyway. Although it's a small board, this is, I think, by no means a particularly short game, which is a pity because a shorter game is one of the things that we kind of need in my group. A lot of analysis paralysis, and not just me. And then the other thing is it's probably not a great, a good choice for an intro. It has a lot of mainline things, but it also has a lot of special stuff going on. I think the 18AL, 18GA, I mean, they're the best intros in the sense of, wow, they're really easy. You know, they're 1830 stripped down, but I don't feel like they give enough bang for their buck to necessarily capture people the way 1830 short game captured me. So I still go with that. That's my top choice for intro. This one with this one has some simplification, the easy track, stuff like that. It does make it easier to play in certain ways. There's rules that you don't have to understand quite as fully. I've seen confusion with the track. I have confusion with the track in the 1830 style track, but just because sometimes it looks like something can get somewhere and it actually can't. And you're just like, oh, this you never have that, but I do feel like the decision making is harder. Anyway, I'll clean it up, but first this goes up.